Hello friends, my name is Christina Grozik and I'm with a documentary called Going Om, which is an exploration into sound, and we even cover topics like silence, vibration, frequency, energy, because all of these things matter. And because they are so important, we've decided to continue the discussions around them with people that are using them in their work and why this matters. Today with me I've got a really special guest. Sharry Edwards is here, and she is a pioneer in vocal profiling using BioAcoustic Biology, doing this before anybody else was doing it. She has been researching bioacoustics for more than 30 years. From childhood, she has been able to hear beyond the normal human range, and her voice creates pure tone. She initiated Sound Health as an educational research organization dedicated to the study of low frequency analog sound and its potential to influence human health in 1991. She's taught at Capital University. She was awarded Scientist of the Year from the New Frontiers of Science. She has been in several documentaries, and there has been a book written about her work called Secret Sounds: Ultimate Healing. And she has done so many presentations and discussions, and she uses sound to restore balance to the body and create a healthy vibrational state. So hold on to your seats, folks. We're going for a ride today. Hello and welcome, Sharry.
What a wonderful introduction. Thank you. I love this idea of creating sound environments.
Well, thank you. And you do that. You've dedicated your life to creating sound environments for people on so many different levels and in so many different ways. And I mean, really, we met a few years ago, and that really changed things for me. It just made me think about so many other things that I hadn't considered. But you're a pioneer in this industry. You've been doing this. I know a lot of other people have adopted your work and they're trying to make it their own, but you have always tried to make this affordable and get this information in everyone's hands. And your work is so appreciated. So thank you for everything that you have done and that you continue to do.
Thanks for allowing me to bring this up and to the people. I think we could do this in ancient times. We would know from birth to death, we'd use sound in our everyday interactions with people. And people really knew when we were sincere, when we were telling the truth. And somewhere where lying became popular, we sort of lost our ability, because you say something, people say, no, that's not true. And then you wouldn't rely or believe your own reactions. And so we put this on the back burner. I'm trying to bring it back for people because I think truth helps us find our strong foundation so we can go out and meet the world.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And I know before we started our discussion, we were talking about this a little bit, and I had shared with you that I just spoke with a gentleman that does lie detector tests for a living, and he uses the machine to do it. And he was telling me about all of the physical things that happen when you lie, and your body is working against that, saying, wait, time out, something's not right, because now I'm sweating, now my blood pressure just went up, my heart rate just went up, and my pupils are really acting in a different way because I'm not being authentic, I'm not being honest. So he needs a machine for that. You can do that, and you've always had that ability to be able to detect if someone's lying. And I want to talk about your journey, because your journey is, and your work, all of it is such a fascinating, well, I guess just exploration into the world and what we are capable of doing, right? And you're bringing that to us. So from a very early age, you had these abilities. And I understand, you would tell your family, hey, the carrots are ready, to be picked, or the vegetables or the fruits. So you grew up without electricity, you grew up without the radio, you grew up without running water, but you had the sounds of nature around you, and you were very in tune with them. And you also knew when people weren't being honest. And I remember you sharing when we were in your lab that one of your relatives was not being authentic and was not being honest, and you actually said something and they got really upset with you over it because they weren't being honest, and you said something about it. So when people aren't being honest and you call them out on it, they usually react because they know, right? And you called them out on it, and I believe she called you a witch at that point. So a lot of your skills were suppressed at that age. But there was an incident back in, well, when your daughter was 16 at a watering hole. And I think that it sounds like changed things. So can you tell us a little bit more about this journey?
I'll combine the two things that you just talked about because it's very, very important to me that, yes, I have a talent, but I don't want it to be wasted. I want to create tools and solutions so everybody could do it, so we can go back to our core of truthfulness and integrity. And the incident you're talking about is my daughter. We were on this watering hole by an old train trestle, and the kids were up on this high crag, rocky crag, and they were swinging out into the water, and you know, Tarzan's diving into the water. But she was kind of heavy, and she couldn't hold on and fell into the edge of the water into about 3 inches of water on her knees. And when I got to her, her leg was laying off to one side. And you could see all the adipose tissue and the veins and stuff kind of hanging out, this really jagged, bursting open, like from the inside out of her leg. And I had been teaching at the university about laying on of hands healing and Dolores Krieger and Reiki and that kind of thing. And I thought, if I ever knew anything, I need it now. I'm going to have to watch my daughter die, and I want to help her do that peacefully. So I knelt between her and the leg so she wouldn't see it. And it was before cell phones, but I sent somebody for help, even though we were a half hour away from any help at all, or even a phone. And I was singing to her, just whatever was coming up for me, because I hear sounds. My ears are mutated, my voice is mutated. I was just doing a sound. And I should explain, she's very accident prone. If there's an accident around, she'll find it and be a part of it. That's just the way she is. So I'm singing to her, trying to keep her calm. And the ambulance people got there, and they had this wire bed thing that they brought down and put her on. And they told me I could move away. And they put a cast, open cast, like you could see through it, on her leg. And I just thought it was funny because there was a fly caught in that cast, and they couldn't bring her back over the rocks. They took her through the water up to their neck to the ambulance on the other side, because it was a wilderness. And so they have her in the ambulance. I'm driving behind them, and I'm still doing sounds for her. We get to the hospital, and I had taught a lot of these nurses about energy and laying on the hands healing, because I taught the parapsychology courses at the university for about 10 years, not because I knew anything, but just because I could do it. And they could learn to do it by watching me do it. But I didn't know anything. So here I am doing the sound, and the nurse comes over and she said, "Sharry, you can let go. You don't have to do the sounds now." And I sort of slid down the wall in relief. And at that moment, she started screaming from the back. She had torn the meat away from the bone from her knee down. It was a pocket of sand in there, and they were washing that out. She had torn everything, and including the artery in the back of her knee, but we don't know why she didn't bleed to death. But she was in a hospital for 49 days. She had 3 operations. We don't know why she didn't bleed to death. But I thought to myself, if I could teach this to other people, if I could get it to them in a machine, even if they can't do it with their voice, then parents wouldn't have to watch their children die if there's this kind of accident. We could just dial in whatever we needed. And we can do that now, even with EpiPens, because we have that dial in that we can use. But that began the search from me just playing with this, just to see what it was, and finding out when the carrots wanted to be picked, because dogs and chickens and carrots and trees, they all have energy and they all communicate. And science has proven that now. And it has to be through the energy of the living thing that it is. So I decided, my husband and I decided that if we could save one parent from having to watch their child die, we wanted to do this as an exploration for humanity and to turn this over to humanity. So we have a center now for almost 20 years. We see people clinically here. We teach other people to do it. Our preference is that we teach people to do it for themselves. So we have free online classes, free online software, in the hopes that every community will have a bioacoustic center that people can go to when there is trauma or chaos or some kind of catastrophe.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you are about sharing this information and putting it into the hands of the individual so they can, then harness that and take care of things on their own. And the fact that that had to be so scary for you, and what a courageous thing to do. And I guess that was put in your path to help change your path a little bit so you would further explore it. But I'm sorry that you had to go through that experience with your daughter, but also thankful for it at the same time, because that had, in that moment, all of those years of being taught, like, don't talk about this, don't do this, suppress this isn't that, and, kind of taught not to show those abilities. And in that moment, you had to, right? So it was critical.
We try to keep this hidden, but it's coming out more and more that this is an innate talent for a lot of people. And also, people are picking up, Mayo Clinic and MIT are picking it up. As a matter of fact, 5 companies have come here and taken courses and got information and filed patents. And I warned them. They wanted me to work on this corona stuff and they wanted to charge people. I said, no, this is humanity is not going to make it if we keep this to ourselves and charge people a lot for it. I want to give it away. And of course, they didn't want to do that. But I said, if you take this information and you try to patent it and you try to charge people for it, I'm going to give it away. And we have. So we have an online workstation called Sound Health Portal that people can go to and test their own voice for corona conflicts and spike proteins. And then we have articles and ways for them to work on this for themselves. Humanity's at stake, and I want to be part of humanity surviving.
Oh, that is beautiful, Sharry, and it's so important. It's so important. The work you're doing has always been important, but I think we are in such an interesting time at the moment that, we can't afford not to work together, and you can't afford not to, share the gifts and the knowledge that we have with one another to find what resonates with each other. So I think we are in such a critical time. And I'm very hopeful that we'll move in the right direction, but we have to do it together. So yeah, thank you for everything that you're doing. And I know years ago that was the case as well. There were other people, taking what you had put forth, and the research you have done and the work that you've done, and wanting to charge a lot of money, and you kept sharing it with people and making it affordable to people or free for that. So,
One,
I'm
one
sorry.
of the very first things we did was a nano voice, NaNo voice, and we gave that away for almost 20 years. It was a program that I wrote when I was a senior in interpersonal communication, when I was learning how important persuasion is and how many people were lying and what was going on. And I could tell when people were lying. There were certain things that happened. Their voice got very flat. And so we put that program out for 20 some years as free until somebody took it and tried to sell it and tried to badger me into selling it. The woman said, and she's a doctor, she said, if you're stupid enough to give it away, I'm smart enough to sell it. And so we started still giving it away, but giving a registration number, and people can still use it free of charge on the Sound Health portal. And one of the things that's really important is balance, like balance in a song. There needs to be balance in your voice, full spectrum light, full spectrum sound. So they can go on the Sound Health portal, and right on the front page is Nano Voice, and they can have a microphone. Usually any old microphone will do for that. even a vocal mic, which really filters your voice, and they can talk to it. Now, the computer does not keep your words, it only keeps the sounds. So you can say, I want to go out with so-and-so. How do you think that would fit? Or I want this job, or is my kid really lying? And it will show you the balance of what you're saying or the unbalance. Like we were called in on a case where a coach, and you'll probably recognize this, was having sex with young boys in a locker room. And we were called in and they asked us, is he telling the truth? Not only could we tell them that according to his own desires, he was telling the truth, but he didn't see this as sex. Sex was something you have with a lover for children and whatever. This was just horseplay. And that word horseplay gave him away. That showed how he was not telling the truth. What do you think would happen? Oh, he was convicted. What do you think would happen to our world if everybody had to tell the truth?
Oh, I think everything would be different. Yeah, I think everything would fall back into balance and alignment. And you know, I've also, like, I am able, like, I just feel it. I don't hear it, but I just feel it. And I will tell you that I need to work on it because the universe keeps putting it in my path because I know, and right then I sense it, but I want to give people the benefit. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this or maybe that. I need to eliminate those maybes and just say, you know what? Stay true to myself. That's what I realized, a big lesson to me within the past couple of years, and some really expensive lessons on so many levels, is I wasn't being authentic to myself and honoring myself because I already knew that they weren't being honest, and I still went against myself. So, it's being honest with myself that way. But yeah, I mean, I think if everyone could be authentic and be in their true space, I think this world, it's like the yin and yang, or yan and yang. I know people call it different things, but I think it would be in perfect harmony. But I don't, what do you think?
It'd be chaos at first.
First, yes.
Being more divorces, the political system would probably fall apart until we got some good people in there. But people don't trust themselves in what they say and what they think. They leave it to other people to do their bidding and to tell them the truth so they can come back and feel foundational and strong. And we talked about this before. People knew about this and they knew how to do it years and years ago. We found this in the Bible. This is Luke 6:45. I'm going to quote here. A bad man may imitate the voice of a good person, but the evil in his heart will certainly vibrate in his pretending voice. And that's the computer program that we've made available so that you can look at someone's pretending voice. And from that, we were able to discover not only can you look at the notes and the scales, like in a song, your voice becomes a song, you can look at the sour notes. And based on the sour notes, we can tell about your biology and your physiology. So this has just grown over the years to give us more and more information that the voice is a holographic representation of all that you are, from your emotions, from your intentions, from your intentions to your gallbladder and your blood. And we've made that available to people with free classes and set them up so that they can get a free class and free software so they can set up a business to start to help people so they can take the more advanced courses. We can now tell even the root cause of what is going on in someone's voice. It's in there. Your brain is a central processing unit. It's all run on frequencies, and that's sent down to your neural network, and you crook your little finger based on a thought and a signal, and we've just decoded what that signal is. Now, the DNA is the pattern of the body. The RNA keeps the pattern, and that's what we've been able to tap into to the point of helping people regrow a cornea or bones, or just things that I have a hard time believing that we could even do. And most of our customers and what we do is just somebody who shows up at the door. So let's see what we can do.
Oh, I love it. I love it, Sharry. And it's such a gift what you're offering. And, your work spans across so many different areas. So you were just talking about how you were called in to determine whether this person, this coach, was being honest or not. But you've also worked in areas of space travel. You've worked with anxiety. You've worked with Alzheimer's, autism, brain damage, fibromyalgia, migraines, Parkinson, and the list goes on and on. Like you mentioned earlier, it's helping people to find those sound environments. So you just mentioned how it works with the brain, how sound works with the brain, and then it sends these signals to the body how to react. And you have determined through the RNA, which I believe are the proteins, is that correct?
Yes.
And then through working with the proteins, you can find a way to balance them out with sound. So I want to get into some more of the studies that you've done and some more of the cases that you've had. And I mean, we could do an entire series for years on all of the different things that you've covered. Absolutely. So I want to get into some of those things. But can you tell us a little bit more about, I guess, how that works in terms of working with the RNA. So maybe first let's define what a vocal print is, because I guess that's the very, very first step to this is the vocal print. So can you tell people what the vocal print is?
We do two different kinds of vocal prints. One just notes and one actual frequency, like the note of A is 440 in our world, but it's also 442 and 438. So we deal with the frequencies. But I want to mention something. There's a man by the name of S. James Gates, and he's a neurophysicist out of Brown University, I think. And he took a group of students and did some work with botany and found within the plants, there's a DNA code that looks like computer code for humans. So think about that. In a plant DNA code, there is a code that helps humans become more whole. And what we have done is tapped into that system of proteins and RNA, and we've been able to do things like reverse macular degeneration, reverse autism, just by giving people a sound. Now, what that indicates is that we are run by sound, by math as medicine. Are we really just very sophisticated math-based robots? I think we are. Bioacoustics is biological, and math as medicine, I believe, is going to be the medicine of the future, even in space travel. You're talking to a microphone that says, okay, and this really happened. It was the cosmonaut. His heart was arrhythmic, and we were able to help and give the frequencies. And so by the time they got back to Earth, his heart was in rhythm again. And we have used that on many people to put the heart back into rhythm. So there are frequencies that help heal bone, and they're standardized things. There are frequencies for hormones and infertility. We're just working on a whole template right now for prostate cancer or prostate issues. Millions of men have issues with prostate, and we are creating a database so they can go test what's going on with their own prostate, because it's incurable. Conventional medicine doesn't know all of what helps with macular degeneration. We take 10 people and we look at what they have and we look at their voice, and we can know that it's the rectus inferior muscles in the eye, and they get drusen or cholesterol in there, and we're able to stimulate those muscles with sound, and people can see again. We have proven that we can, let's intervene would be a good word, with people's frequencies of the brain. We had a lady in the other day, and she had a lot of pain, arthritic pain. And so we took the medication that she was taking and we translated it into frequency, and we gave her the frequencies. And it's not just a frequency, but it's also a formula and an octave scale. And we were able to do the same thing with sound as if she had taken the medicine because her complaint was she couldn't afford the medicine anymore. Now think about what kind of money conventional pharmaceuticals bring in, billions. So we have to be very careful not to step on some of these financial toes as we move along.
Yeah.
But
So
it's going to come a time when medicine is rationed and people are going to need what we have. Look at Bloomberg. He said when he's running for president, the only way we're going to be able to balance our budget is to ration medication for old people. That's terrifying.
mhm.
If we can show people and teach them how to replace medication with frequency formulations, we could help the world. We could help our future. It,
Absolutely. Yeah, I am a big proponent and believer that we already have all the answers we need inside. Our body will already do the work, but we are living in a society that is so chaotic and there's noise everywhere and distractions, and it's hard to just calm the mind and settle the body to know what to do. But what you're doing is it kind of overrides the system, right? It overrides the system to help find that balance and that connection to be made. So you have something out of balance here, so you take this frequency or this tone and you apply it, and then it brings that one back into balance so it's in harmony with one another. And you can do this through the vocal print. So you have someone speak into a microphone, you record that. The data that you see will then tell you where there's discrepancies or imbalances within the body, and based on that, you're able to assign a tone to that to help bring it into balance. And they do that through a box, correct?
well, there's very specific things we can do with frequency, but general things we can do with notes. And if you go on our site, Sound Health Options, you can download some of this. Like the note of F is the kidneys and the lower back and male hormones, and D is liver and insulin resistance. And every note in your body, every organ, every system has a system of sound and harmonics. And we just learned by trial and error what that is. So if you don't have enough D, we can suggest songs. We can have you play an instrument. We can give you color, which is orange or turquoise. We can give you songs. We can give you a machine that'll give you the sounds. So however you want to do it, we try to put back full spectrum sound and let the body heal itself to go back to optimal form and function. The body's capable of that. We're just supporting it.
I love that, Sharry. I love that. And for someone that may not be familiar with the color side of things, they may say, "Well, we're talking about sound. Why are we talking about color?" Can you tell them why color comes into play here?
Because color is a frequency, aroma is a frequency, sound is a frequency. You've seen these detective shows where they put something on a little piece of glass tubing and they spin it around and say, oh, that's the frequency of blah, blah, blah. You've been poisoned with arsenic. Because everything has a frequency. Every emotion, every bone, every thought, every system. And we've just broken a lot of those codes. We have over 200 templates of this is the template for cholesterol. Where's your kink or your fault? This is the template for fertility. And by the way, Gardasil shots really mess up the fertility templates. And so we're seeing a lot more infertility come along. The other thing we're seeing is these kids that are in stress about their gender. Almost all of them are poisoned with glyphosate.
Wow. Wow.
So we're poisoning our kids and the body's picking that up. Refrigerators making noise, cars making noise. Everything makes a noise, and we have to be careful of what noise, sound, frequency comes into our environment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I recently saw that the World Health Organization said that noise pollution is a growing concern to human wellness for sure. So I want to go back because we've covered a couple of different things. So you have this really interesting thing, and I love this about relationships. So you can actually help determine the notes that someone has, and then do you want to kind of take it over from here, why we might be attracted to someone? Because I know I can say, like, from visiting different cities, there are certain cities that resonate with me, others maybe not. You walk into your room and you say, oh, this feels really good, or get me out of here. Same can be said with people, right? You meet certain people and you're just naturally gravitate towards them, or you're like, I don't think I want to turn my back on this person, So why? Well, in terms of relationships, why would that be the case? And how do notes come into this?
Well, not only do we help human organisms, we thrive, plants and animals are also a part of this because everybody has a frequency and you seek to balance your frequencies. Just like sour notes in a song or a song that leaves a piece out, it kind of, when a song ends before you think it ought to, hold on one second. You want to balance that and add to it. And it's much like color. You've got all of these oranges. What goes with the orange? Well, some yellow and some red. And just like you balance the colors in your life, you need to balance the sounds in your life. And everybody has a signature sound. That's an ancient concept from astrology, which is where I think some of this matters. And this astrology chart goes with that one. And those people should marry because they have the best chance of conceiving a whole WHOLE person, a whole child. We had a couple in here and the baby was having seizures in utero. And so you put the mother and the father's frequencies together and it ended up being magnesium. And when that baby was born, she was born and had seizures. And it wasn't, they wouldn't let me work on her, the hospital wouldn't. And then we found out that she couldn't deal with magnesium very well, which was the stress point between the two parents. So astrology and some of that has a lot to do with this. Human beings tried to understand the movements of the planets. They're based on our musical notes, the time of year we were born. We put out a newspaper, an article every month on the day of the year, the day of the month, and what frequencies are in stress. And so you know when blood pressure is going to go high. We do that. We're following something NASA did, that there's a frequency for every day. And so you're born on that day. I happen to be born on the day for dopamine. And I have symptoms and have had symptoms for Parkinson's for years, but I keep it in check by giving myself the harmonics of dopamine. It started out with tremors, but I can give myself the frequencies I need and it doesn't manifest into full-blown Parkinson's.
That's incredible. I mean, that is absolutely incredible and so valuable. What a great tool to be able to say, like, okay, here's the notes and here's to balance it out. I mean, even broken down into our relationships, and what is a good unity, something that comes into that harmony and unison versus what might not be. So I know there was a situation too with a woman, and we talked about medication here for a little bit. And I think, anytime someone's on something for something, right, there's always another area that medication's impacting, right? So it might be helping in this way, but then maybe it's having an impact somewhere else in a different way. So there was a woman that came to you and she had migraines and she was given a prescription and you discovered that it was actually a muscle in her neck. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
She was a nurse and she had migraines that they couldn't do anything about. They gave her pills for it and that caused ulcers. They gave her medication for the ulcers and that caused something else. When we looked at her vocal print and ran her through our migraine program, it was obvious that it was a muscle in her neck. And just like noise canceling headsets, that muscle was too tight, that frequency was too abundant. So we gave her the opposite of it, like a noise canceling headset, and the neck relaxed and the migraines went away. It was not a biochemical migraine, it was a structural migraine. and the computer knew it. We've taught the computer to do this stuff, just like we've taught the computer what your perfect mate is. And if you need the note of G because you have problems with minerals, you will be attracted to anybody that, I think it's Scorpio, that's a note of G. You can look on the charts on our website and see what belongs to what sun sign. I think that's the beginning of how all of this was developed. And it was all astrology based on math, based on the movements of the planets. So it's our right to have this information. It's our world reduced to math. And we just found a way to hand it over to people so they can use it for their own health.
Yeah, and I think that's such a fantastic thing, and it's really interesting because with the work that I do with sound, people are like, oh, I don't know, I'm not into that. That's against this. It's against my belief in this, and it's like really at the end of the day, it's all energy. It's all energy, and it's all interconnected. So while we're talking about the movement of the planets, while we're talking about math, while we're talking about colors, this is all related and it's all connected because they're all one. I mean, they all have their each separate component and function, but they're all intertwined and they all work together. And that's what you have done is you've brought all of this together in a formula that you can very much target to a specific condition. And I think that is
Perfect.
amazing.
Perfect. It's like waves. You throw a pebble into a pond, it makes a wave, another pebble, and it interferes with the wave. And do they go together and look really symmetrical, or do they go together and they're kind of ugly? Well, the same thing with relationships and frequencies. We're all here attempting to balance our own frequency and what goes on. That's what happens in our life. The people we're attracted to, the people we're repelled by, the medicine that we're repelled by or can't take, the colors, the places. In London, I don't need glasses. There's something about London that feeds me the note of A that my eyes need.
That's so neat. That is so interesting and neat. I love that. I love that. And I'll tell you what, Sharry, absolutely 100% buy into that, believe it. Recently, earlier this year, I had a pretty serious viral infection and it knocked me out. And recently I was having some vision issues. And I went to an eye doctor because I was getting concerned about it. And I already intuitively kind of felt what maybe the issue was and that it was lingering from this viral infection and, maybe some stress in my life. And the doctor was like, oh, you need glasses, but your vision is perfect. And I'm like, that's a contradiction. And he's like, well, we'll get this prescription, and then if these side effects go away, then we know it worked. And I'm like, but what you're saying doesn't even make sense. You're telling me that my vision's perfect, but I need glasses. That doesn't even make sense to me. But I took the prescription and I'm like, okay, we'll see. And I did a couple of protocols that I felt I was being called to do, and within a week everything was fine. But it's interesting just because and there's certain places, and it was actually an area I was in that I think the resonance or the vibration, the frequency in that area was not resonating. I felt very uneasy. I was feeling and I'm usually a very calm person, but I was feeling very anxious and I couldn't pinpoint why and then I got out of that area for a few days and totally felt different. So I absolutely appreciate what you just said about London and not needing glasses there because it feeds you.
Was it a note of A or the color of Capricorn blue or people born in Capricorn that you would be attracted to balance your energy, make your eyes better?
Okay.
I think that's why we have relationships, because they have our missing notes and make us whole.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, I may have to talk to you offline about some of these things.
Well, you can do it. You can do it yourself. You can go on the Sound Health portal, go to services, and they have like 10 things you can check on, and they will send you a report directly from there about what's going on.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Well, let me ask you, there was a story, and there's so many stories. Like I said, we can do an entire series probably for the rest of our lives on the different cases you've had and the different conditions you've worked with. But there was one that really stood out and touched me. So it was a little girl named Jocelyn, who was diagnosed with autism. And you did some work with her. So can you tell us a little bit about that and then where she is today?
Jocelyn came to us when she was 3, and she had hypolexia. She didn't generate speech, but if she wanted a light on, she would say, Jocelyn, would you like me to turn on the light? So she was parroting what her mother would say to get the light turned on. And so they told me that this little girl could read. She's 3, but she didn't generate sentences. She'd pick up a book and read it, but she never generated anything. And we did her print, and it was the DPT shot, vaccine damage. We gave her the antidote, and she picked up a little doll, and she said, this is a dolly. We nearly fell off our chairs. But she's now 24. She's finished college. She is a linguist. She speaks 6 languages. She's brilliant, and she made her life in the world, even though she's grown up autistic and issues. Do you see this on your screen that this came up?
I see. Yeah, maybe it looks like maybe a call was coming through, or we lost the visual on you on the screen. I can still hear you, um, but yeah, we lost the camera portion here. There you are. You're back.
Okay. But she is doing great working as a linguist online. Brilliant. Another little girl, we changed people's lives. Another little girl came to us when she was the end of the 8th grade, right before the 9th grade. And she looked to be about 10 years old. She was a doctor referral. It's in one of our videos called Good Vibrations. And her growth hormones had not kicked in. Over the summer, she changed from like a 10-year-old to a 15-year-old. You can see it right on the film that we were able to help her kick in those growth hormones. She now has finished college and on the dean's list, and she was a D and an F student before we got a hold of her. And she now has finished college and is teaching kids like her, changed her life totally. And that's what keeps you going when you get a case like that, that so totally changes people's lives. But people have a hard time believing. We had a woman come here, they told her she had 6 weeks to live and she had leukemia. We found out that she had a problem with her heme molecule, that it couldn't carry the oxygen. So we helped her with it. And about 3 or 4 years later, we heard from her. She was calling us from the Leukemia Society and she wanted a donation. I said, we're the ones that helped you. You send some of that money over here. But it's very hard for people to believe. We have a mother in with macular degeneration. She was blind. We gave her the frequency. She can see again. She can put on a lipstick. But her son developed the same thing and he wouldn't come to us. He said, when my doctor tells me to come to you, I will. And he died blind.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing to me, and I think I personally believe it's shifting. I think that there's a major shift going on. I think people are starting to reevaluate what they think they knew, and they're looking for new ways of doing things. But it's amazing to me how many people my motto for the past couple of years has been faith over fear. And sometimes faith is believing in something that you can't necessarily see, you can't really like explain logically why that is, but it just is. And I think these are all things that all the ancient people knew. I think this is all information that we had. We already had it at one point. We've just lost our way and our path. But yeah, I think your work has been proven. You have the studies behind you, you have the cases behind you that this is effective.
It's like creativity. You can't prove it. You can only prove its results.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
But I think when rationing happens, people are going to have to depend on us. When doctors get so fed up, they're not going to see patients anymore. People are going to have to take self-responsibility. Self-health is a thing of our future. And we want to provide the tools and solutions for that, for everyone, from the inside out. Because from the outside in, they're being lied to. And truth is a great determiner for how secure you feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to stabilize things first, right? And like you
Yes.
said earlier, when that truth comes out, it's going to be chaotic at first because it's like a shock to your system. What's going on if everybody has to tell the truth and be authentic? But then there's this beautiful harmony that comes out after we get through. So what do they say? There's the dark before the dawn, right? To get through the light, to get to the light, you have to go through the storm. These are all growing pains.
And we have classes for people. We have a 4-hour class for people to learn to do the nano voice. We have a new nano section on our website that we have questions and answers. We have charts and stuff for people to learn to do this. I think it's really important. Truth is a value that we need in our society today so that we can move forward.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I want to bring up something you have, a saying that I've seen in your office and that I've also heard you say it too, about how, Sherry, help me out here.
We're looking for data. If you get well, it's your problem.
Yes, that is, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because I know there's so many things that just walking around there and just like, and I have a whole list listed here, like math is medicine and things like that. But I love that. I love that. So thank you.
All of, I'm sorry, all of this has been trial and error. And so I don't have medical background. I have an absolutely useless degree in dietetics. I took it in the 80s when they said you don't need vitamins and everything comes from your food, which is a total farce now. We totally need support in our nutrition. So all of this is trial and error. I don't claim to be medical anything. And I can't give anyone advice. We can tell them what's in their chart and give them a list of their nutrients and give them a list of what caused their macular degeneration, but we can't give them anything medical. So we put this up so people don't have medical expectations. We love it that they'll get well. We want to support them to get well, but it's like taking vitamin C. The vitamin C doesn't make you well. It's what your body does with it that makes you well. And we want the tools for people to be able to monitor that. And they can take their voice every day and monitor what happened today and what do I need. And I have this vision that people come home and say, hello, house, I'm home. And the house monitors your voice and says, you need vitamin A. I'll make some carrot soup.
That would be great. And I think, how awesome would it be if we keep recording our voice and then, maybe once a month, it's a form of self-care where we just record our voice once a month. And then we can monitor over time the discrepancies in the voice and how it changes, because then using technology that you've created, we can tell where those deficiencies are when they're changing, and maybe apply the different tones and take the different steps that we need to bring it back into balance. So I mean, how cool if that was like, putting on the blood pressure cuff. Same thing with the voice. You record your voice, you keep a record of the voice, right?
I love the idea, but we're going to create a problem. What if people never die? What would happen?
Yeah, that could, yeah. Yeah.
But health is very important. And if you're going to live a long life, why not be healthy and vibrant and robust? And we've done a project on Alzheimer's and help with that, and Parkinson's. And there's so many things in our society that need attention that we have tried to look at that, like methylation mapping. We have so many people now that has mitochondrial syndrome. They have all these symptoms, and they don't know where they're coming from. And you go back to the cellular energy of the body, and we can look at that. Is it molybdenum? Is it glycine? What is really going on in your body? And if you want to fix it, what you can do about it, either with sound or food or nutrients. We want people to have those options.
It's good to have options for sure. So, and hopefully people will explore more of this as I think we move forward in the future. And I think they are. I think it's already happening. I think that shift is already happening. And I think it complements Eastern and Western medicine. It all works together as one. So,
Ancient and conventional, I feel very honored to be the radio to deliver this information to the world. So thank you for helping us share it.
oh my gosh, Sherry, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. I mean, every time I look, you've got a new study here, a new talk here. I mean, I'm like, is she putting tones to sleep and get into that deep state of rest? Because you're always working and you're always researching and exploring and helping people. So thank you for that. And I know, early on, you were the pioneer in this that really put out this technology. So thank you for all of your work and thank you for making it available to everyone.
My honor to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I have a question for you. So, I've asked everyone this because I think this is really interesting and important too, just to be aware of the sounds around us. And I know you are very aware of the sounds around you, probably more than most of us. So, first, can I ask you, Auto acoustics? It's the first time I ever heard that term is when we were together and you were telling me about it. So, can you tell us what that is?
It's Otto acoustic, Otto meaning ear, and it's some work out of Brown University, or Johns Hopkins. Wendell Brown's the guy's name. There is a sound coming out of your ear. And I think this is the way we learn to communicate. This wave comes out of your ear, you talk to people, and it hits that wave. And the interference in the wave coming out of your ear and the wave from somebody else's voice or your own voice begins to program you and teaches you what meaning of the words are and the interaction is. Animals have this, humans have it. We block it out, just like if you're in a city and you block out the traffic. We want to teach people to hear this on their own. They never need anything I'm doing. They can do this all on their own. It's in an article on our site called If You Can Moan, You Can Tone. And it teaches people to hear their own sound. That's perfect for them every moment. That's dynamic. You want to go to sleep quickly, lay down, listen to the sounds in the other room, then listen to sounds very close, then sounds over there. You have an ear focus, just like you have an eye focus. And that focus will put you in touch with your own frequencies. It sounds like millions of bells off in a distance, or a shofar, or millions of angels. Listen to it. It's perfect to balance you every moment. And it's your right to do that every day to bring yourself to center.
And say the word one more time. Auto.
Otto,
Oh,
Otto acoustic emission.
okay. Okay.
Alfred Tomatis has done a lot of work with that and changing it so that kids who are autistic aren't autistic anymore.
It's incredible. It's amazing what can be done and what we can do. It really is. Sherry, what are some of your favorite sounds? Like when you hear them, it just feels like all is right in the world.
Dopamine makes me feel happy, and that's a D sharp. I have a bowl like you have behind you of just that D sharp of dopamine, and it just puts me in bliss, which a whole nother show here, but that's one of the things that's being interfered with is the God gene, and that helps control dopamine. I love the D, the parathyroid hormone. I love A sharp as a companion because they love talking about mind things, Aquarius people. Some days when I want a lot of energy, I love red and the note of C. And all those charts are on our site. You can just go download them. Or if you take our course, they just send it all to you.
Yeah, and you have the chart on there as well that it has the note and then it has the emotion attached to it and then the physical side to it too. And I think that's
Mhm.
really interesting. And when you look at them, it's like, oh my gosh, yes, so yeah. So, all right, Sharry, is there anything that you would like to add before we wrap up?
You talk a lot in the note of E and B. Do you know your birth sign?
I do.
What is it?
Pisces?
Note of B.
Okay.
And so a lot of your words are in that Pisces and the love of harmony. But the note of E is words and entertainment. And Kenny Rogers was an E, a loving, friendly, helpful person. So E is your lungs and your voice and your breathing, and B is your nerves. So just by listening to your voice, those are the two issues that you might want to concentrate on, but it makes you want to take information to the masses, which is exactly what you're doing. But look on the chart, it'll say E and B, and this is what it does.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that very much. And I happen to be a big fan of Kenny Rogers. So thank you. Yeah. 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 And you're right. I just had someone ask the other day, they're like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, because I want to learn more, but I think it's important that we all learn a little bit more because if this information's available to more people, then maybe we'll make different choices. And I feel like we need to right now.
And when I look at the graph of people's voice, there's E, that's foundational, that's E as you want power, there's E as emotions, there's E as naive, there's E as fantasy, there's E as omnipotent. So you can really tell where people are coming from with their words. Used to be, we did a lot of political things, and I think that people need to do those political things on their own instead of my opinion. I almost said something that was going to make a difference politically, but I don't want to share that right now.
So, but let's maybe we can share how people, because you said if people can do it on their own, you have a way that people can do it on their own. So, how would people do that?
In our Nano Corner or Nano Club, there's a 4-hour course that people can use to learn how to interpret all this. There's a textbook, and they can use the Nano Voice on the Sound Health Portal, the workstation that we created for the public. Do it on your own. Don't take my word for it. Don't take political people's word for it. Look at their voice and see where they're coming from and make up your own mind if there is a balance. The more balance there is in a chart, Ron Paul was one of the most balanced, truthful politicians I have ever worked with. Another lady is very truthful. She runs the National Vaccine Information Center, Barbara Lou Fisher, nvic.org. And there's a lady by the name of Gwen Olson. She wrote a book on what the pharmaceutical company is doing to children by giving them pharmaceuticals at a very early age that affects their brain. She is very, very honest. Do I have time to tell you her story? It's beautiful.
Yes, please.
She was a salesperson for a pharmaceutical company. She was very good at her job. She made a 6-figure salary, had her own car from the company. She was so good that they put her in charge of training other people. And the very first thing they taught her is, you get those doctors to get that baby that vaccine on the first day of birth, because if you do that, we'll have a customer for life, because that vaccine will make sure that that baby stays a customer of the pharmaceutical company. She wrote a book called Confessions of an Actual Drug Pusher. It's on Amazon, Gwen Olson, Olsen. She is one of the most beautiful, trustworthy, honest people I know. And she had to go into hiding for telling the truth.
I'm sure.
We need to be able to tell who of our leaders are pocketing their own morality and using us up.
Yeah.
And these are the tools that will help people do that. But make up your own mind about who's telling the truth, who's the more balanced. take the courses, pitch them, throw them out if you don't like them, but try them on your kids, your husband, your family, your mother first, because you know those people, and then you'll be able to interpret what is going on with the government and who's on the side of the people and who's on the side of their pocketbook.
And once you have those tools, that's a game changer when you learn how to use them. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I want that for the world. That's why we keep working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally understand. Totally understand. Sherry, let me ask you, so if somebody is, let's say you just got bad news, or you're not feeling great, or you're a little tired, or you just, had like someone just cut you off in traffic or something like that, and then you do a vocal print. Does that change it? Is that accounted for when you look at the vocal prints?
It will pretty much stay the same over time. But if you're in a car accident, it's going to be different that day, but you'll revert back. So you can see where you are. The more balanced the voice is, all the notes are there and they're in equal balance and equal colors, the more balanced you are as a person.
Okay.
Like a song, you want the song balanced. You don't want any sour notes. So if you got something really, really high, like right now, Biden has the note of C really high in yellow, it's intellectual, and that's intellectual ego. That's about the only note that he has at the moment.
Wow. Wow.
So he has the others missing, so he's not telling all of the truth. And you can learn to do that with anybody.
There's so much to learn. So much to learn. And I think the best teacher is inside, like you had indicated earlier, but it's clearing the clutter and finding the tools to tap into that inner ability and that inner power.
I think that we knew how to do this, and I think what we do or offer is only allowing people to remember. It's all in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Waking up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, waking up. So, Sherry, is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
I want to let people know there's really nothing wrong with their vocal print, even if things are too high or too low. It's what you do about it that makes a difference. And please, we have a guest course, free software, free course. Get involved, stick your toes in the water, see if this is for you, because we need teachers. We don't have enough practitioners to cover the world, but we just need more people involved in helping us spread the word and bringing people to that idea of self-health is inside them. They don't have to depend on anybody else for it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, life happens. Everyone gets out of balance. Everyone gets out of balance, and it's a constant practice. I've had people, even with the work I do, they're like, "Oh, you must be so zen, and you must be this," and I'm like, "It's a practice. Every day, it's a practice because you know what? Life happens every moment, so it's always a practice. Always a practice." So,
And one of the things we talked about before is when we aren't authentic, our energy gets off and we feel a kilter, and that messes up our karma. The more we can be authentic, even if it hurts. My mom used to say, the truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable.
yeah.
And when you are authentic to yourself, even if it's something you don't want to be saying or feeling, that's going to set you free.
Mhm. Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all of the work you're doing. Where can people learn more?
Soundhealthoptions.com, soundhealthportal.com, and check out that new nano club, because that's where we're going to teach people to dig deep into themselves and let that blossom for the world.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you for everything. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. It's really good to see you again. And
It was an honor to be with you.
thank you. Thank you. And hopefully, I'll see you in person sooner than later.
That
So,
would be great.
yeah, that would be awesome. So, All right. Well, I will talk to you soon, and I will include everything that you mentioned in the description as to how people can find you as well.
That's
Okay.
great.
Thank you.